The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like angry wasps as Maya Chen stared at the termination letter sliding across Margaret Holbrook's mahogany desk. The HR director's manicured fingers drummed impatiently against the wood, each tap echoing through the sterile office like a countdown to execution. "This is effective immediately," Margaret said, her voice carrying the warmth of January steel. "Security will escort you out within the hour." Maya's hands trembled as she lifted the document. 3 years of exemplary performance reviews, countless overtime hours, and award-winning project completions, all reduced to a single page of corporate legalese. "I don't understand. My last evaluation was outstanding. The Morrison account—" "The Morrison account?" Margaret's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "Maya, dear, you're easily replaceable. We have dozens of analysts who could handle that work with their eyes closed. Your particular skills are no longer aligned with our company's direction." The words hit like physical blows. Maya had heard whispers about the company's restructuring, but she'd assumed her track record would protect her. She'd been wrong. "What about the irregularities I reported? The discrepancies in the quarterly reports?" Maya's voice grew steadier, drawing strength from her anger. "I documented everything. The phantom accounts, the overseas transfers." Margaret's expression hardened. "I have no idea what you're referring to. Perhaps this termination is for the best, if you're seeing problems where none exist." She stood, smoothing her designer skirt. "Paranoia isn't a quality we value here at Meridian Financial." Maya rose slowly, her mind racing. The financial analyst in her was already connecting dots, recognizing patterns. The timing of her dismissal, coming just days after she'd submitted her concerns about suspicious account activity, wasn't coincidence. The Morrison account she'd been managing, the one generating millions in profits with no clear source of origin, suddenly made terrifying sense. "I'll need my personal files from my computer," Maya said quietly. "Already handled. IT has imaged your hard drive for company records. Your personal items are being boxed as we speak." Margaret's smile was arctic. "We're very thorough here." The security guard appeared in the doorway as if summoned by telepathy. His presence transformed Maya from employee to criminal in the span of a heartbeat. She thought of her colleagues. Sarah in accounting, who brought homemade cookies every Friday. Jim from marketing, who always asked about her mother's health. The entire analytics team, who'd become like family over the past 3 years. They deserved to know what she'd discovered, what Meridian Financial was really doing with those offshore accounts. "There's one thing you should know," Maya said, turning back to Margaret as the security guard stepped forward. "I wasn't the only one investigating those irregularities." For the first time, Margaret's composure cracked. A brief flash of concern crossed her features before the corporate mask snapped back into place. "Whatever conspiracy theories you've cooked up, Sarah Jennings in accounting, Jim Morrison from marketing, David Kim from IT security." Maya rattled off the names, watching Margaret's face pale with each one. "We've been comparing notes for weeks. Did you really think one termination would make this go away?" The security guard's hand closed around Maya's elbow, but she shrugged him off. She'd walk out on her own terms. "Enjoy your afternoon, Margaret," Maya said, stepping into the hallway. I have a feeling it's going to be your last peaceful one for quite some time." Maya's hands shook as she fumbled for her phone in the parking lot. Her cardboard box of personal belongings balanced precariously on her car's hood. The morning sun felt like a spotlight, exposing her shame to every passing colleague who might witness her exit. But shame was a luxury she couldn't afford right now. Sarah answered on the first ring. "Maya, aren't you supposed to be in the Morrison presentation?" Sarah, listen carefully. Maya glanced back at the gleaming Meridian Financial Building, its glass facade reflecting nothing but blue sky and corporate success. "They just fired me. Margaret Holbrook personally handed me the termination letter, and I think it's connected to our investigation." Silence stretched across the line. Then, "What investigation?" "Maya, what are you talking about?" The blood in Maya's veins turned to ice water. Sarah's voice held genuine confusion, not the careful neutrality of someone pretending ignorance, but the authentic bewilderment of someone who truly didn't understand the reference. "The financial discrepancies we discussed. The phantom accounts. You said you'd noticed irregularities in the quarterly reconciliations." "Maya, I never said that. We talked about the Morrison account being profitable, but I never mentioned any irregularities. Are you feeling all right?" Maya's mind reeled. She distinctly remembered the conversation, Sarah's worried expression as she'd pointed out inconsistencies in the account ledgers, the way she'd glanced around nervously before suggesting they dig deeper. But now Sarah spoke with the bemused concern typically reserved for someone experiencing a breakdown. "I have to go," Maya whispered, ending the call. Her next call was to Jim Morrison, then David Kim. Each conversation followed the same devastating pattern: polite confusion, gentle concern for her mental state, and complete denial of any shared investigation. By the fourth call, Maya understood what had happened. She'd been isolated. Carefully, systematically isolated. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Coffee shop on 5th Street. 1 hour. Come alone." A friend. Maya stared at the message, her analytical mind cataloging possibilities. Trap, setup, genuine ally. The odds shifted with each consideration, but one fact remained constant. She had nothing left to lose. The coffee shop on 5th Street buzzed with the usual afternoon crowd. Students hunched over laptops, business people conducting hushed meetings, retirees reading newspapers with deliberate slowness. Maya chose a corner table with clear sight lines to both entrances, her paranoia now operating at professional levels. She'd been waiting 15 minutes when a woman approached her table. Mid-40s, graying brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing the kind of unremarkable business attire that rendered someone invisible in corporate environments. "Maya Chen?" The woman slid into the opposite chair without invitation. "My name is Detective Linda Rodriguez, Financial Crimes Division. I sent you the text." Maya's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. "How do you know who I am?" "Because you've been on our radar for 3 months. Not as a suspect," Rodriguez added quickly, noting Maya's alarm. "As a potential witness. We've been building a case against Meridian Financial, and your name kept appearing in relation to suspicious account activity." "My name? How?" Rodriguez opened a tablet, swiping to a screen filled with financial data. Your access logs show repeated queries into accounts that shouldn't exist. Off-books transfers, shell company transactions, money laundering operations that would make a cartel blush. You were getting close to something they couldn't afford to have exposed. Maya leaned forward, studying the data. The patterns were there, the same irregularities she'd been tracking, but presented with the clarity of official investigation. How long have you known? 6 months. We've been waiting for someone on the inside to come forward with concrete evidence. Then this morning, we intercepted communications suggesting you'd been terminated to prevent exactly that. Intercepted communications? Meridian's phones aren't as secure as they think. Rodriguez's smile was grim. Margaret Holbrook made some very interesting calls after your meeting, including one to someone she called the cleaner. Maya's blood went cold. The cleaner? Corporate euphemism for the person who makes problems disappear, usually permanently. Rodriguez closed the tablet. Maya, you're in danger, real danger. But you're also our best hope of bringing down a money laundering operation that's funneled over $200 million through Meridian in the past 2 years. The coffee shop suddenly felt too exposed, too public. Maya's eyes darted to the windows, the other patrons, the exits. What do you want from me? Everything you know, every document you copied, every suspicion you had, every person you talked to about your concerns. We need it all, and we need it tonight. I don't have anything. They imaged my computer, took my files. But you're smart, too smart to put everything on a company computer. Rodriguez's eyes held a knowing gleam. Where are your backup files, Maya? Maya hesitated. Her home computer held copies of everything: financial records, email chains, her own detailed analysis of the suspicious transactions. But admitting that would make her a target, not just of Meridian's corporate machinery, but of whoever the cleaner represented. If I help you, can you protect me? If you help us, we can put the people who fired you in prison for the next 20 years. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Margaret Holbrook. Forgot to mention, your termination package includes a lovely severance. Stop by my office tomorrow to discuss the details. Your cooperation would be greatly appreciated.
She showed the message to Rodriguez, who cursed under her breath. "They're not done with you yet," the detective said, "which means we're out of time." "What do you think will happen next? Share your predictions in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling stories. Maya's apartment felt like a museum of her former life as she packed her laptop bag with trembling hands. The familiar surroundings, her grandmother's antique tea set, the wall of financial achievement certificates, the cozy reading nook where she'd analyzed countless reports, now seemed like artifacts from someone else's existence. Detective Rodriguez waited by the window, her trained eyes scanning the street below. We've got maybe an hour before they realize you're not coming back to work tomorrow. After that, all bets are off. There!
Maya ejected a small USB drive from her laptop.
Everything's on here. Bank records, transaction logs, email correspondence, my complete analysis of the money laundering scheme.
Rodriguez pocketed the drive, but her expression remained grim. This is evidence, but it's not enough for prosecution. We need someone willing to testify. Preferably, someone still inside Meridian who can authenticate your findings.
My colleagues won't help. I tried calling them. They all claim they never discussed any irregularities with me. Amnesia is a common symptom of corporate loyalty programs. Rodriguez's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and swore. We've got company. Black sedan, tinted windows, just pulled up across the street. Maya peered through the blinds. Two men in expensive suits were examining her building's directory, their movements carrying the predatory patience of apex hunters. Back exit? Rodriguez asked. Oh! Escape leads to the alley behind the building. Perfect. Grab old Maya stuffed her laptop, the USB drive's backup, and a change of clothes into her bag. As they moved toward the bedroom window, her phone rang. Sarah Jennings' name appeared on the screen. Don't answer it, Rodriguez warned. Shh. But Maya was already swiping to accept. Sarah? Maya, oh thank God! Sarah's voice was strained barely above a whisper. I lied to you earlier about the investigation. They came to see me right after your call. Margaret Holbrook and two men I didn't recognize. They said if I admitted to discussing company business with you, I'd be terminated for corporate espionage. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Sarah, where are you? Home. But Maya, they didn't just threaten my job. They knew about Jenny's college fund, about my mother's medical bills. They said cooperation would be rewarded, but disloyalty would be expensive. Through the window, Maya watched the two men enter her apartment building. Listen to me carefully. Don't go to work tomorrow. Call in sick, take a vacation day, anything. Just don't go in. I can't. I need this job. But Maya, there's something else, something I should have told you weeks ago. What? The Morrison account? It's not the only one. There are dozens of similar accounts, all following the same pattern. Ghost companies, overseas transfers, massive cash deposits with no source documentation, and they're all managed by the same person. Who? Margaret Holbrook. She has administrative access to every account you flagged. Maya, I think she's running the entire operation. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the building's hallway. Rodriguez grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her toward the fire escape. Sarah, get out of there! Take your daughter and go somewhere safe! I can't. They'll know. The line went dead. Cosepisa. Rodriguez had already opened the window, the cool evening air rushing into the apartment. Move, now! As Maya climbed onto the fire escape, she heard her apartment door splinter. The men hadn't bothered with subtlety. The safe house was a nondescript motel room on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that asked no questions and accepted cash payment without requiring identification. Rodriguez had secured 2 rooms, one for Maya, one for herself, with a connecting door that stayed unlocked.
Maya sat on the edge of the bed, her laptop open, USB drive inserted, watching Detective Rodriguez scroll through financial documents with the focused intensity of a surgeon performing delicate operations.
"This is incredible work," Rodriguez murmured, highlighting another suspicious transaction. "You've documented everything. The shell companies, the layered transfers, the timing patterns that prove coordinated money laundering. With this evidence, we can freeze their assets within hours."
But you still need insider testimony.
"Ideally, yes. Someone who can authenticate these documents, confirm they came from Meridian Systems, and testify about the company's internal operations." Maya's phone had been buzzing intermittently for the past 2 hours. Calls from unknown numbers, text messages from colleagues expressing concern about her sudden departure. Even a voicemail from Margaret Holbrook expressing worry about Maya's emotional state and offering counseling services. The latest message made Maya's blood freeze. "Your friend Sarah is having dinner with us tonight. We're discussing her future at the company. Hope you'll join us soon. MH."
They have Sarah.
Maya whispered, showing Rodriguez the message.
The detective's face hardened. "This changes things. We can't wait for proper procedure. I'm calling for backup and a warrant." "How long will that take?" 6 hours minimum, maybe 12.
Well, Maya thought about Sarah's daughter, Jenny, a bright 12-year-old who dreamed of becoming a doctor. About Sarah's mother, fighting cancer with medications that cost more than most people's mortgages. About the quiet desperation in Sarah's voice during their last phone call.
There's another way, Maya said slowly.
"I'm listening. What if they think I'm cooperating? What if I agree to meet with Margaret? Let her believe she's convinced me to stay quiet and record everything." Rodriguez shook her head immediately. "Too dangerous. These people have already demonstrated they're willing to use violence. Walking into a meeting with them is suicide." "Not if you're monitoring everything. Not if we pick the location." "Maya, they want to silence me because they think I'm a threat. But I'm only a threat if people believe what I'm saying. If I appear to break down, to accept their version of events, they'll let their guard down." Rodriguez studied Maya's face, reading the determination there. "You're talking about going undercover, without training, without backup, into a situation with confirmed dangerous individuals. It's insane. It's the only way to save Sarah, and to get the evidence you need." The detective was quiet for a long moment, weighing options with the methodical precision of someone whose decisions carried life and death consequences. Finally, She nodded. We do this my way. Full surveillance, emergency extraction protocols, and the moment things go sideways, you run. No heroics. Maya was already drafting her response to Margaret's message. You're right. I've been stressed and seeing things that aren't there. Can we meet tomorrow to discuss my return to work? The reply came within minutes. So glad you're being reasonable, dear. My office, 10 a.m. We'll sort this all out. The tension is building. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which character you're rooting for. Your support helps me create more incredible stories like this one. Maya's hands were steady as she applied makeup the next morning, but her reflection in the motel bathroom mirror showed eyes bright with barely contained fear. The wire Rodriguez had taped to her chest felt like a branding iron against her skin. A constant reminder of the stakes. Voice check, Rodriguez said through the earpiece hidden beneath Maya's hair. Clear, Maya whispered. Remember, your job is to get Margaret talking. Let her think she's won, that you're broken and ready to cooperate. The moment she mentions Sarah or makes any threats, we move in. Maya nodded, straightening her blazer. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, professional but slightly rumpled, conveying the image of someone who'd spent a sleepless night reconsidering her position. In financial building looked exactly the same as always, its glass facade reflecting the morning sun with indifferent perfection. But as Maya walked through the lobby, she noticed details that had escaped her attention before. The security cameras in every corner, the way the guards' eyes tracked her movement, the subtle tension in the air that suggested a company on high alert. How Margaret's office door was open, and the HR director was waiting with a smile that might have seemed genuine to someone who didn't know better. Maya, I'm so relieved you decided to come in. Please sit down. Can I get you coffee? Water?
Coffee would be nice. Maya took the chair across from Margaret's desk, noting that it had been positioned to face away from the window, eliminating any possibility of visual surveillance from outside the building.
Margaret poured coffee from an expensive-looking machine, her movements graceful and controlled. I want to apologize for yesterday. I think we both let emotions get the better of us.
I've had time to think, Maya said, accepting the cup with appropriately shaky hands. Maybe you were right. Maybe I was seeing problems where none existed. Stress can do that to a person. The pressure of managing high-value accounts, the responsibility of protecting client assets, it can make anyone paranoid. Margaret returned to her seat, her eyes never leaving Maya's face. But that's exactly why we have procedures, systems of checks and balances. No single person is responsible for catching every potential issue. The Morrison account revenues I questioned. Perfectly legitimate. I had our external auditors review every transaction you flagged, clean as a whistle. Margaret leaned forward slightly. Maya, you're a talented analyst, but you're not an investigator. Sometimes patterns that seem suspicious to an untrained eye have perfectly reasonable explanations. Maya nodded, playing her part. I feel so foolish. All that time I spent documenting what I thought were irregularities, which is exactly why we need to discuss your future here. Your termination yesterday was precipitous. I acted out of concern for the company, but I realize now that what you need is support, not punishment. The offer hung in the air like a baited trap. Maya forced surprise onto her features. You're saying I could come back? With certain conditions, a fresh start, a new position better suited to your analytical skills, and an understanding that company confidentiality is paramount. Margaret's smile didn't reach her eyes. We take care of our people, Maya. Sarah Jennings is a perfect example, facing some personal financial challenges, but the company has been very supportive. There it was, the threat wrapped in corporate compassion. Is Sarah all right? I tried calling her yesterday. She's fine, working late on a special project. Very dedicated employee. Margaret stood, moving to a filing cabinet. Maya, I'm prepared to offer you a position in our international division. Better pay, excellent benefits, and the opportunity to travel. The only requirement is absolute discretion about your previous concerns. Maya's earpiece crackled softly, Rodriguez's voice barely audible. Keep her talking about Sarah. That's incredibly generous, Maya said. But what about the concerns I raised? Shouldn't they be investigated properly? Margaret's smile tightened. Maya, let me be very clear. There are no concerns to investigate. The transactions you questioned are part of legitimate international business operations that require a level of confidentiality you apparently don't understand. International operations? Currency exchanges, hedging strategies, offshore investment vehicles, complex financial instruments that generate substantial profits for our clients. Margaret returned to her desk with a thick folder. This is your new employment contract. Everything you need to know about your future with Meridian. Maya opened the folder, scanning the documents. The salary was nearly double her previous position, with benefits that seemed almost too generous. But buried in the fine print were clauses about corporate espionage, industrial secrets, and legal consequences for unauthorized disclosure of company information. This is a lot to process, Maya said. Take your time. But Maya? Margaret's voice carried an edge that cut through the corporate pleasantries. This offer expires at the end of business today. After that, we'll have to pursue other options for protecting our interests. The threat was unmistakable. Maya looked up from the contract, meeting Margaret's gaze directly. Other options? Legal remedies for corporate espionage, civil suits for defamation, criminal charges for theft of proprietary information. Margaret's mask was slipping, revealing something cold and predatory beneath. We have excellent lawyers, Maya. They're very thorough. And Sarah? Does she have the same choice? Sarah has already made her choice. She's a team player, someone who understands that loyalty is rewarded and disloyalty has consequences. Maya's earpiece crackled. That's enough. We're coming in. But Margaret was still talking, her voice taking on the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. The beautiful thing about financial crimes, Maya, is how easy they are to fabricate. A few altered documents, some strategically placed evidence, and suddenly an honest employee becomes an embezzling criminal. Sarah understands this. I hope you will too. Through Rodriguez's earpiece, Maya heard the sound of feet pounding up stairwells, of doors being forced open, of authoritative voices demanding identification and cooperation. Margaret heard it too. Her head snapped toward the office door, her composed facade cracking like thin ice. "What did you do?" she hissed. Maya stood, her hand moving to the wire beneath her blazer. "I chose a different option." The next few minutes unfolded with the chaotic precision of a tactical operation. Maya dove behind Margaret's desk as the office door exploded inward, revealing Detective Rodriguez and 3 uniformed officers with weapons drawn. "Financial Crimes Division! Nobody move!" Margaret Holbrook, who had spent decades perfecting the art of corporate composure, crumbled in seconds. She lunged for her desk drawer. Whether reaching for a weapon, documents, or a phone, Maya would never know. But Rodriguez was faster. "Margaret Holbrook, you're under arrest for money laundering, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice." As Rodriguez read Margaret her rights, Maya heard sirens wailing outside. Through the office window, she could see police cars surrounding the building, federal agents entering through multiple entrances, and employees being escorted out with expressions of stunned bewilderment. "Where's Sarah?" Maya demanded as Margaret was handcuffed. Margaret's laugh was bitter. "Ask your friend Rodriguez. Ask her how many innocent people she's willing to sacrifice for her case." Rodriguez grabbed Margaret's arm. "Sarah Jennings is safe. We extracted her 2 hours ago, along with her daughter and mother. They're in protective custody." Relief flooded through Maya's body like a physical wave. Thank God. "Don't thank him yet," Margaret snarled. "You have no idea what you've just destroyed. The money you think we're laundering, it's funding humanitarian operations, disaster relief, medical research that saves thousands of lives. You've just shut down a network that does more good in a month than you'll do in your entire insignificant life." Rodriguez tightened her grip on Margaret's arm. "Save it for your lawyer." But as Margaret was led away, her words echoed in Maya's mind with uncomfortable persistence. What if there was more to the story? What if the financial irregularities she'd discovered were part of something larger, more complex than simple criminal activity? Rodriguez seemed to read her thoughts. "Don't listen to her, Maya. It's a classic manipulation tactic. Make the victim question their moral authority, suggest noble purposes for criminal activity. We've traced those funds. They're going to arms dealers, drug cartels, and human trafficking operations." Maya nodded, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The Meridian Financial Building was transformed into a crime scene, with FBI agents, forensic accountants, and digital investigators swarming through every department. Maya found herself in the surreal position of consulting on an investigation of her former workplace, helping federal agents navigate the labyrinthine financial systems she'd once managed. "The sophistication is remarkable," Agent Jennifer Park explained as she scrolled through data on her tablet. "They created an entire parallel banking structure using legitimate business accounts as fronts. Every transaction had multiple layers of documentation, backup justifications, and regulatory compliance paperwork." Maya studied the transaction flows on Park's screen. It's not just sophisticated, it's beautiful, in a terrifying way. Whoever designed this system understood both domestic and international banking regulations well enough to exploit loopholes that most people don't even know exist. Any idea who might have that level of expertise? Margaret Holbrook has an MBA in international finance and 20 years of experience in corporate banking. But this goes beyond one person's knowledge. You'd need expertise in multiple areas: legal, technological, regulatory. Park made notes on her tablet. We're analyzing employee access logs, looking for patterns of collaboration. So far, it appears the operation was compartmentalized. Most employees, including your colleagues, genuinely didn't know what they were facilitating. Maya thought about Sarah's confusion, Jim's genuine bewilderment, David's complete ignorance of any irregularities. How many people were actually involved? Best estimate: 12 to 15 core participants across multiple departments. Margaret Holbrook was definitely the coordinator, but she wasn't the architect. Who was? Agent Park's tablet chimed with an incoming message. Her expression grew grim as she read, "Maya, we need to talk privately." They moved to an empty conference room, away from the bustle of the ongoing investigation. Park closed the door and activated a small device that Maya recognized as a white noise generator. "What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels," Park began. "The money laundering operation you uncovered? It's connected to a broader investigation we've been conducting for 3 years. An international network that's been using legitimate businesses to move money for some of the world's most dangerous criminal organizations." Maya felt the floor shifting beneath her feet. How big? 17 countries, 43 companies, estimated $2 billion in illicit transactions over the past 5 years. Park leaned forward. "Maya, Meridian Financial wasn't just a node in this network. It was the control center, the hub through which everything else was coordinated." "And Margaret?" "Middle management. The real architects are still out there, and they know we're closing in." Park's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Maya, your life is still in danger, significant danger." As if summoned by Park's words, Rodriguez appeared in the conference room doorway, her face pale with urgency. "We have a problem," she announced. "Margaret Holbrook posted bail an hour ago." Maya's safe house had been compromised within 6 hours of Margaret's release. Rodriguez discovered the breach when surveillance cameras showed 2 men in maintenance uniforms installing what appeared to be routine cable equipment on the building across the street. Equipment that bore a suspicious resemblance to long-range listening devices. "How did they find me so fast?" Maya asked, as they loaded her few possessions into Rodriguez's unmarked car. Margaret had help. Professional help. Rodriguez started the engine, her eyes constantly scanning mirrors and side streets. The bail was posted by a law firm that specializes in international corporate defense, the kind of lawyers who charge $1,000 an hour and ask no questions about their clients' business practices. Maya pulled her jacket tighter as they drove through the city's industrial district. The autumn evening carried a chill that seemed to penetrate deeper than mere weather. "Where are we going?" "Safe house number 2. This one's off the books, a place I use for witnesses in federal cases." Rodriguez turned into an alley behind a row of warehouses. Maya, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about money laundering anymore. The people Margaret was working for don't leave loose ends. They parked beside a nondescript door marked only with the number 47. Rodriguez led Maya up 3 flights of stairs to an apartment that looked like it had been furnished by someone with government budgets and no imagination. Functional furniture, basic appliances, and windows that had been reinforced with ballistic glass. "Home, sweet home," Rodriguez said, deadbolting the door behind them. "You'll have company tonight. Agent Park is handling surveillance, and we've got a tactical team positioned within a 2-block radius." Maya moved to the window, peering through the ballistic glass at the street below. "How long do I have to live like this?" "Until we roll up the entire network. Could be days, could be weeks." Rodriguez joined her at the window. "Maya, there's something else. Something Agent Park didn't tell you this afternoon." "What?" "We intercepted communications suggesting the network is planning to activate what they call Protocol 7. We don't know what that means, but the timing corresponds with Margaret's release." Maya's phone rang, displaying a number she recognized as Sarah's. Rodriguez nodded permission to answer. "Maya?" Sarah's voice was strained, barely recognizable. "Oh, thank God you're okay. I've been so worried." "Sarah, where are you? Rodriguez said you were in protective custody." "I was, but they released us this morning. Said the immediate threat had passed." Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. "Maya, something's wrong. There are people watching our house. Jenny's scared. My mother's asking questions I can't answer, and I received a package this afternoon." Rodriguez was already reaching for her radio. "What kind of package?" "Photos, pictures of Jenny walking to school, my mother leaving her doctor's appointment, me grocery shopping yesterday, and a note." Maya's stomach clenched. "What did the note say?" "Your friend Maya has caused significant disruption to important business operations. Perhaps you can convince her to be more reasonable." Sarah's voice broke. "Maya, they know everything about us, our routines, our schedules, where we go every day." Rodriguez was speaking rapidly into her radio, coordinating emergency protection for Sarah's family. But Maya's attention was fixed on a different problem. If Sarah and her family were being watched, how had Sarah gotten free to make this phone call? "Sarah, are you somewhere safe right now?" "I'm at the grocery store. I told them I needed milk for Jenny's cereal tomorrow." Sarah's laugh held an edge of hysteria. "Maya, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." The line went dead. Rodriguez lowered her radio, her expression grim. "Tactical team is en route to Sarah's house. But Maya—" She paused, studying Maya's face. "What aren't you telling me?" "That call felt wrong. Sarah's not the type to panic, even under pressure. And if she's being watched, how did she manage to call me without her watchers knowing?" Rodriguez's phone rang. She answered with a curt, "Rodriguez," then listened for 30 seconds before her face went white. "What?" Maya demanded. "Sarah's family isn't at their house. Neighbors say they left yesterday morning with several suitcases." Rodriguez was already moving toward the door. "Maya, we need to go, now." "Why?" "Because the call you just received, it was traced to a cell tower 6 blocks from here." Rodriguez's car screamed through the narrow streets, sirens wailing, emergency lights casting red and blue shadows across the warehouses and empty lots of the industrial district. Maya gripped the dashboard as they took corners at speeds that defied physics, her mind racing faster than the speedometer. If Sarah called from 6 blocks away, that means... It means they know exactly where you are, and they're close enough to move in whenever they choose. Rodriguez spoke rapidly into her radio headset. This is Detective Rodriguez requesting immediate backup at Safe House 7. Potential hostile approach. Armed suspects, likely. Maya's phone buzzed with another call from Sarah's number. This time, Rodriguez answered. Sarah Jennings? The voice that responded wasn't Sarah's. It was cultured, calm, with the slight accent of someone educated in expensive European schools. Detective Rodriguez, I presume? How refreshing to speak with law enforcement directly. Rodriguez activated the phone speaker. Who is this? Someone who represents interests that extend far beyond your current understanding. My name is Victor Kozlov, and I believe you have something that belongs to me. Maya recognized the name from financial documents she'd analyzed. Kozlov International Holdings, one of the shell companies funneling money through Meridian's accounts. But the voice belonged to someone far more dangerous than a paper corporation. Where is Sarah Jennings? Rodriguez demanded. Ms. Jennings and her family are quite safe, I assure you. They're enjoying accommodations that cost considerably more than a detective's salary could afford. Kozlov's laugh was silk over steel. But their continued comfort depends entirely on Ms. Chen's cooperation. Maya grabbed the phone. What do you want? Ah, the famous analyst who's caused so much trouble. Ms. Chen, you have information that could damage business relationships I've spent years cultivating. I need that information deleted, and I need your assurance that no copies exist. You're talking about the financial records, the evidence of money laundering. I'm talking about misunderstood business transactions that have been grossly mischaracterized by people who lack proper context. Kozlov's tone remained conversational, as if discussing the weather. Maya, may I call you Maya? The money you've traced through those accounts funds operations that protect thousands of lives, refugee assistance, medical supplies to war zones, disaster relief in regions where legitimate aid organizations cannot operate. The same argument Margaret had made, but delivered with far more sophistication. And if I refuse? Then Sarah's daughter will grow up without a mother, and Sarah's mother will not receive the medical treatments keeping her alive. The silk in Kozlov's voice disappeared, revealing the steel beneath. I am not a patient man, Maya. You have 1 hour to decide. The line went dead. Rodriguez was already coordinating with her backup units, but Maya could see the tactical problems they faced. Kozlov had hostages, unknown resources, and the advantage of choosing when and where to act. There's another option, Maya said quietly. I'm listening. Give him what he wants. Let me destroy the evidence. Rodriguez shook her head immediately. Maya, that evidence is our only way to prosecute this network. Without it, everyone walks free. But Sarah and her family live. Until the next time someone threatens Kozlov's operation. These people don't release witnesses, Maya. They eliminate loose ends. Maya stared out the car window at the city rushing past, thinking about Sarah's quiet strength, Jenny's dreams of medical school, Sarah's mother fighting cancer with stubborn dignity, ordinary people who'd been swept into an extraordinary nightmare because Maya had chosen to investigate financial irregularities that seemed suspicious. "There's a third option," Maya said slowly. "What?" "We give Kozlov the evidence he wants, but not the evidence he expects." Rodriguez glanced at her while navigating a particularly sharp turn. "Explain." "The financial records I compiled, they're comprehensive, but they're not complete. I was careful to document everything I found, but I didn't find everything that exists." Maya pulled out her laptop, balancing it on her knees as the car sped through the city. "What if we give Kozlov the files he knows about, but keep the evidence he doesn't know exists?" "What evidence?" Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing hidden directories and encrypted files. "The complete network map. Every shell company, every transaction, every account. I didn't just analyze Meridian's records, I reverse-engineered the entire money laundering operation." Rodriguez's radio crackled with updates from the tactical teams. Multiple units were converging on their location, but so far, no sign of Kozlov or his people. "Maya, that's brilliant. But how do we get Sarah back without actually giving up everything?" Maya looked up from her laptop screen, her face illuminated by data that represented months of careful analysis. "We make him think he's won, and then we destroy everything he's built." Rodriguez's phone rang again. This time, Maya answered before the first ring completed. "I'm ready to cooperate," she said immediately. Kozlov's chuckle was warm with satisfaction. "Excellent. I knew you were a reasonable person. Here are the terms." The abandoned pier stretched into the harbor like a broken finger, its weathered planks creaking under the weight of decades and neglect. Maya stood at the landward end, a laptop bag slung over her shoulder, watching 3 black SUVs approach through the industrial wasteland that surrounded the waterfront. Rodriguez's voice whispered through Maya's earpiece. "We have you covered. Snipers in position, tactical teams ready to move. The moment you have visual confirmation on the hostages, give us the signal." Maya touched the small transmitter hidden beneath her jacket collar, a simple device that would send an emergency signal if pressed. But she also knew that the success of their plan depended on timing, misdirection, and Kozlov's belief that he held all the advantages. The SUVs stopped 50 yards away, their engines idling, headlights cutting through the evening fog rolling in from the harbor. Car doors opened and 6 figures emerged, 5 men in expensive suits and 1 woman Maya recognized with a surge of relief. Sarah Jennings looked tired but unharmed as she was escorted toward the meeting point. Behind her walked a tall man with silver hair and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of his surroundings with predatory efficiency. Viktor Kozlov, in person, was even more imposing than his voice had suggested. "Miss Chen," Kozlov called as they approached, "thank you for being prompt. I appreciate punctuality in business dealings." Maya raised her voice to carry across the distance between them. "Where are Sarah's family?" "Safe, as I promised." Kozlov gestured, and one of his men produced a tablet displaying a live video feed. Maya could see Jenny and her grandmother in what appeared to be a luxury hotel room, playing cards and appearing genuinely unharmed. "Now," Kozlov continued, "shall we proceed with our transaction?" Maya opened her laptop bag, withdrawing a USB drive and her laptop. "Everything you asked for, the complete analysis of Meridian's financial records, all backup files, and my working notes, but I want to see them released first." Kozlov shook his head with paternal disappointment. "Maya, I'm afraid business doesn't work that way. I need verification that you're providing what you promised before I can release my collateral." "Then we have a problem." The tension stretched across the pier like a taut cable. Maya could almost feel the crosshairs of hidden snipers, the held breath of tactical teams waiting for her signal. But she could also see the calculation in Kozlov's eyes, the way his men's hands rested near concealed weapons. "Perhaps," Kozlov said slowly, "we can reach a compromise. I will release Miss Jennings as a gesture of good faith. You will demonstrate that your files contain what I need. Then we complete the transaction." Maya nodded. It was better than she'd hoped for. Kozlov gestured to his men, and Sarah was allowed to walk forward. Maya met her halfway, embracing her friend with genuine relief. "Are you okay?" Maya whispered. "Scared, but fine. Maya, these people, they're not just criminals, they're something else entirely." Sarah's voice was barely audible. "They have resources, connections, people in government positions. This doesn't end with tonight." Maya squeezed Sarah's arm. "It does, if we do this right." She returned to her laptop, inserting the USB drive and opening the files she'd prepared. Her screen filled with financial data, transaction records, account summaries, detailed analysis of the money laundering operation. To Kozlov's expert eye, it would appear comprehensive and damaging. "Satisfied?" Maya called. Kozlov approached, flanked by 2 bodyguards, and studied the screen over Maya's shoulder. His expression was unreadable as he scrolled through the data, but Maya noticed the slight tension in his shoulder's ease as he recognized the information she'd compiled. "This appears to be everything," he said finally. "However, I need assurance that no copies exist." Maya closed the laptop and ejected the USB drive. "This is everything, but I want confirmation that Sarah's family is being released." Kozlov produced his own phone, speaking briefly in a language Maya didn't recognize. Within seconds, his man's tablet showed Jenny and her grandmother being escorted from their hotel room by people who were clearly law enforcement rather than Kozlov's personnel. Rodriguez's voice crackled through Maya's earpiece. "We have them. Both targets are secure." Maya smiled and pressed the transmitter hidden beneath her collar. The pier erupted into chaos. Spotlights blazed to life from multiple directions, turning night into harsh, artificial day. Amplified voices demanded surrender as tactical teams emerged from concealment behind shipping containers, abandoned buildings, and the pier's support structures. But Kozlov didn't seem surprised. His reaction was too quick, too prepared, as if he'd been expecting exactly this outcome. "Ms. Chen," he said calmly, even as his men drew weapons and took defensive positions, "I'm disappointed but not surprised. However, I believe you've misunderstood the nature of our relationship." Maya tried to step backward, toward the safety of the approaching tactical teams, but found her path blocked by one of Kozlov's men. "You see," Kozlov continued, "I never intended for this transaction to end with your freedom. You've seen too much, know too much, and most importantly, you've demonstrated a troubling tendency toward moral behavior. That makes you a permanent liability." Maya's laptop bag was torn from her hands, the USB drive pocketed by one of Kozlov's men. She watched months of work disappear, along with what appeared to be their only evidence against the money laundering network. "The difference between you and me, Maya, is that I plan for contingencies. Your law enforcement friends are about to discover that the pier they've surrounded is wired with enough explosives to level several city blocks." Rodriguez's voice screamed through Maya's earpiece. "Maya, get down!" But Maya wasn't listening. She was thinking about the contingency plan she hadn't told Rodriguez about, the one that depended on Kozlov's arrogance and his assumption that she would approach this exchange like an amateur. Maya smiled. "Victor, there's one thing you should know about financial analysts. We're very good at maintaining backup systems." She pulled a second laptop from inside her jacket, a device Kozlov's men had missed during their visual sweep. Her fingers found the keyboard shortcuts she'd memorized, and data began uploading to servers around the world. "What are you doing?" Kozlov demanded. "Sending everything to every financial crimes division, every regulatory agency, and every news organization in 17 countries. Not just the Meridian files, everything. The complete network map, all your shell companies, every transaction, every account." Maya's voice carried across the pier with crystal clarity. "Protocol 7 is activated, Victor, but not the way you expected." Kozlov's composure finally cracked. "Kill her!" he snarled to his men. But the tactical teams were already moving, and Maya had one more surprise. She'd lied about the explosives. 6 months later, Maya stood in the marble lobby of the federal courthouse, watching Victor Kozlov being led away in handcuffs and orange prison attire. The man who had once commanded international criminal networks now looked diminished, almost ordinary, as he shuffled toward the transport vehicle that would take him to begin his 30-year sentence. "Feeling satisfied?" Detective Rodriguez joined Maya at the lobby's floor-to-ceiling windows. "Relieved," Maya corrected. "There's a difference." The trial had lasted 3 months, with Maya serving as the prosecution's star witness. Her evidence, the complete financial analysis she'd compiled during her months at Meridian, had unraveled not just Kozlov's operation, but connected networks across 4 continents. 17 countries had issued arrest warrants, 43 companies had been shut down, and an estimated $2 billion in criminal assets had been frozen. Margaret Holbrook had pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges in exchange for testimony against Kozlov. She would serve 12 years in federal prison, a sentence that reflected both her cooperation and the magnitude of her crimes. "Any word on the others?" Maya asked. 7 more arrests this week. The network is collapsing faster than we can process the paperwork." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Your backup plan worked perfectly. Kozlov spent so much effort trying to get the files he knew about that he never suspected you'd compiled even more comprehensive evidence." Maya thought about that night on the pier, about the moment when everything had balanced on her ability to anticipate how a criminal mastermind would think. I learned something important about financial analysis during this whole experience. What's that? The most dangerous assumptions are the ones people make about what you know versus what you've actually discovered. Sarah Jennings appeared in the courthouse lobby, emerging from the elevator with Jenny and her mother. All three looked healthier than Maya had seen them in months. The stress of witness protection and relocation finally behind them. Maya! Jenny ran across the marble floor, embracing Maya with the enthusiasm only 12-year-olds could muster. Did you see him get sentenced? 30 years! I saw. Maya hugged Jenny, then embraced Sarah and her mother. How are you settling into the new house? Better than expected, Sarah replied. The federal witness relocation program has been incredible. New identities, new jobs, new lives. Jenny's already made friends at her new school. And medical school is still the plan. Jenny nodded vigorously. Pre-med at Northwestern, then hopefully Johns Hopkins for medical school. The government is even helping with college funding as part of the Witness Protection Program. Maya felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the courthouse's heating system. Sometimes justice meant more than just putting criminals in prison. It meant giving innocent people the chance to rebuild their lives. Rodriguez's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and grinned. Maya, you need to see this. The message was from Agent Park. Swiss authorities just arrested the Meridian CEO. Your evidence connected him to accounts in 14 countries. This thing keeps getting bigger. Maya shook her head in amazement. How did we not see how extensive this was? Because you were looking at it from inside the system. Sometimes you need distance to see the whole picture. Rodriguez pocketed her phone. Speaking of which, have you decided what you're doing next? Maya had been offered positions with 3 federal agencies, 2 international consulting firms, and a prestigious university research institute. Each opportunity represented a different path forward, a different way to use the skills that had uncovered one of the largest money laundering operations in history. Financial Crimes Division, Maya said without hesitation. I want to do this again. Find the networks, follow the money, protect people like Sarah and Jenny. Rodriguez's smile was warm with approval. Welcome to the team, Agent Chen. As they walked out of the courthouse together, Maya's phone chimed with a news alert. The headline made her stop in her tracks. International Money Laundering Network Prosecution leads to recovery of $2.3 billion in stolen assets. The article detailed how the recovered funds would be returned to victims of fraud, distributed to humanitarian organizations, and used to strengthen financial crimes enforcement worldwide. Money that had been stolen from pension funds, charity organizations, and small investors would go back to the people who had earned it. Maya, Sarah said quietly, I need to tell you something. Maya looked up from her phone. That day when HR told you that you were easily replaceable? Sarah's voice carried a mixture of anger and satisfaction. Margaret Holbrook was wrong. What you did, what you discovered, that was irreplaceable. Thousands of people are going to have better lives because you refused to look the other way. Maya thought about that morning 6 months ago, sitting in Margaret's office, being told her skills weren't valued and her concerns weren't valid. The memory seemed to belong to a different person. someone who hadn't yet understood the power of asking difficult questions and following evidence wherever it led. "You know what the best part is," Maya said, looking back at the courthouse where Viktor Kozlov had just received his sentence. "What?" "Margaret was right about one thing. I was easily replaceable at Meridian Financial. But that's because Meridian was never the right place for someone who actually wanted to prevent financial crimes rather than facilitate them." Rodriguez laughed. "Wait until you see your new office at the Financial Crimes Division. I think you're going to like the view." As they walked toward their cars, Maya's phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but when she answered, the voice was familiar. "Maya Chen? This is Jennifer Park, FBI Financial Crimes. I know you just accepted a position with Detective Rodriguez's unit, but I wanted to give you a heads up about something." "What's that?" "We've been analyzing the data you provided, and we've identified what appears to be a sister network to Kozlov's operation. Different structure, different methods, but connected to some of the same shell companies. We think it might be even bigger than what you already uncovered." Maya looked at Sarah, Jenny, and Rodriguez, people whose lives had been fundamentally changed by the courage to investigate financial irregularities that seemed suspicious. She thought about the thousands of victims who would benefit from recovered assets, the criminal networks that would be disrupted, the future crimes that would be prevented. "Agent Park," Maya said, "when do we start?"